All right, welcome everyone to Digital Marketing Today. We're recording live tonight from the VentureX location at Dallas North. We're at Alpha Road and Knoll, just across from the Galleria at VentureX North Dallas. So we appreciate them allowing us to use their space tonight for our studio. I'm super excited to be sitting here with Evan Sanchez. He's a good friend. I really respect Evan and his knowledge and the way that he works with clients, and really enjoy working with him as well.
You did some great stuff for me too. That's
well,
how we met.
Yeah. So
you did some awesome work. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
it's very
definitely.
kind of you. So, Evan, your company is Springboard Consulting.
Yes.
You've done a lot of great things. I'm really excited about a couple of the projects that we're working on right now. The topic of discussion tonight is sales and marketing strategy for the digital marketplace.
Yes.
And so before we get started with that discussion, why don't you tell our audience, both in studio and those watching and those who will watch the episode once we get it edited, tell us a little bit about Springboard Consulting, maybe a little bit about why you do what you do, and how you help your clients that you work with.
Okay. Well, the reason I started Springboard Consulting is I got tired of working for some larger consulting firms that had me traveling around all the time. So I've got 3 kids and wanted to spend more time with them, but also wanted to, follow my dreams and my passions. I created a coaching psychology back in the late 90s. Been able to apply that to some leadership programs, to some sales programs, and been able to have some great success. So, it's one of those things, you get to follow your passion. Springboard Consulting is that for me. And when we say we help elevate your thinking so you can elevate your business, what we're talking about is really introducing you to that coaching psychology that I developed a long time ago. Had some great experience working with companies like the Dallas Business Journal, Kepner Trago, Endeavor Management, Fortune 500 experience. I've had a lot of really good experiences. Sometimes I talk to people and they're like, what job haven't you had? And I'm like, well, I've had a lot of jobs. I've been hired a lot of times. I've also been fired a few times. So, we take all those experiences and, all the consulting experiences that we've had, and we really just try to meet our customers where they're at. And that's what Springboard is, right? How do we springboard you from the level that you're at to the level you want to be at? And, people will say, well, what's your ideal customer? And, that gets difficult for us too, because our ideal customers a lot of times are really 10 million to 30 million. People that are trying to get to 100 million, I like to work with those types of companies because they have some different struggles and they're not too big. So you get to see some quick results and you get to empower some people. So we get good results with, 10 to 50 million. But there's always this, how do we help other people that can't really afford to work with Springboard Consulting? Because I'm a small business and an entrepreneur myself. And so, we decided we'd write a book, right? Get our thought leadership out there and give that $20 thing that we can help everybody with. So we wrote Sell Like a Champ. And it was really after we wrote Sell Like a Champ where I was challenging my team and our marketers and our web guys and everything. How are we going to promote this book? What are we going to do differently as far as our own company, our own transformation, and how we get to the next level? And that's when we started doing a lot of digital marketing. Mm-hmm. It really is a different world out there today. You got companies like Amazon and Uber and just people that are really changing the whole overall experience. And so because we're all getting used to this experience, we're now putting those demands on the companies that we buy from. And some of those are companies that have been in business for 30 years. And they're really having to do things a lot differently. So, because we had experience in the consulting world and change management and culture and brand strategy, operational excellence, I've always been a sales guy. And so really I believe that the current structure or the current business climate we're in today is one where you really have to pull all of those pieces together to understand how your brand promise is impacting your overall operations, how your culture is impacting the overall experience, and how do you blend all those together to separate yourself in the marketplace. So that's where we're focusing nowadays, and it's amazing how you can start talking to a solopreneur, and you can start talking to a company that has 100 employees, and we're having the same conversation.
Right. And I know that like a couple of projects that we've worked on together, one that we're actually working on together right now, some of those struggles they're more type blue collar type of businesses. Like you said, they've been around for 25, 30 years. They've been very successful, but that success has come through more traditional methods, traditional marketing and word of mouth and, you know, kind of the good old boy kind of network.
Right.
And they're finding now that they're challenged with what you were talking about, customers wanting that different type of experience that they're getting from other types of companies. And I guess there's probably a lot of internal pushback, but at the same time, it's just that change, right? And changing the mindset about how we attract customers that are looking for that experience and then how we deliver it. So what are some of the unique challenges that you're seeing right now currently with a couple of those clients that you're working with?
Well, what's interesting is when you're in the consulting world, the area that's really sexy is the SaaS-based companies. You know, everybody wants to talk about the next technology. That's where a lot of the companies are going to, and people want to work with SaaS-based companies. But the reality is that there's a lot of businesses out there today that, because of this ideal experience, because of buyer behavior changing, right? When I worked for the Dallas Business Journal, I remember I used to be able to call people up and say, we have a top 25 list coming up. I want to talk to you about buying an ad in that section because it relates to your business, and I would get an appointment. Nowadays, people are like, oh, well, so what, right? You call people up, you say, I've got an opportunity for you, and they say, so what? So, you know, in the past, I think you had somebody who was really smart, somebody who was really driven, who had some great sales skills, and they could go out and they could build a business. Maybe it was part of the good old boy system, maybe it was word of mouth. You know, customer advocacy is the number one way that people get business today anyway. But again, now, instead of somebody calling that company, we're going to our phones. And we're going and we're looking up who the competition is, and we're doing some research, and they're getting far enough down the line to where the buyer is now calling somebody when they're about 80% down on making their decision. They're about 80% there. They've narrowed it down to who they're going to buy from. And so it doesn't matter how long you've been around and how good you are, if people are no longer going to the yellow pages, or people are no longer going to that business publication, or people are no longer going to that networking function that they used to work for them, they're definitely going online. And if you don't have a presence there, you're missing out. So one example of that is we just started a Google AdWords campaign for one of my clients. It was the first month. I think we spent about $500 on the campaign, and we were able to generate 54 leads. Well, prior to that, I asked him, how many leads are you bringing in per month? And the answer was, I have no idea. How many salespeople do you have? 7. How many leads are they bringing in? I have no idea, right? So a lot of them don't have this visibility. They don't understand the technology, but when you start showing them that not only could they be where people are going to go first, but now you can actually start tracking some of that. And so now when you want to have that ROI conversation, there's actually something real, some kind of data that can be pulled together. And I think that that's where, those business owners, they're like, yes, I want to do that. But the gap between what they've done and what they're comfortable with and where they have to go seems too big. Mm-hmm. So that's where a lot of our consulting comes into play, and trying to figure out, what exactly is their market, what exactly is their message, and what exactly is their medium. There was a time where everybody thought you needed a web page to be in business nowadays, or a website, I'm sorry. You don't really need a website anymore. Sometimes you just need a web page with a funnel and an offer that's compelling enough that if somebody searches for, they can find you. Or if you have a good enough email list, you would be surprised how many $20 and $30 million companies there are out there that don't have a list of their contacts, meaning their email and their phone and their name. The sales guy may have the email in one book and the phone number over here.
Or accounting may have.
And accounting has where they send the invoices, right? But they don't have all of that in one place. So when they have these older type systems and everything is dispersed amongst the salespeople, again, trying to do the technology thing, if they're not a SaaS-based company, it just seems like a really big chasm. And so that's where we're able to come in and really provide some value.
We had this discussion the other day about somebody you're working with, and they didn't, how many contacts did they end up with just after the system that you set up for them to actually combine all of the contact information they had and marry it with?
Yeah, just under 5,000.
Right.
Just under 5,000.
And they had no idea.
Well, they knew that they had an antiquated system. They knew that their system was a pain in the butt. You know, a lot of times when you're working with salespeople, I am a salesperson, so I know that I want to take the fastest route, right? So when you tell a salesperson, hey, do you have a contact list? Can you put that together in an Excel spreadsheet with their name, last name, email, phone number? Can you put that down? Yeah, I got laughter out there, right? Because it's not going to happen. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm really going to spend the time doing that. We've found some tools where we'll just turn on, you know, an app for $13 or $20 a month, and we'll run that app for 2 months, and it just collects all the information. And it'll say, hey, I found an email over here. Do you want to update it to Joe Schmo's contact? And you say, yes. That works really well for salespeople. So if we turn those things on for a couple of months, the next thing you know, bam, we got 4,500 contacts. So it's those types of things that, you know, we're helping to bring to the market to show them an easier, better, faster way to kind of get moving in this direction. Because the number one most important thing to a company is usually who buys their stuff. And you would be surprised how many companies out there do not have that list. They have where they send the invoice.
Right.
They have that. But if you asked the leader, do you know everyone who buys from you? The answer is typically no.
So as long as we'll segue into a little bit of technology to try to kind of wrap things up, like some of the latest tools and things that you have found that have been very helpful for the clients that you're working with.
Yeah.
For instance, I know that you're a big SharpSpring person from as far as a CRM, an automated marketing system. So for those that aren't necessarily up to speed with some of those types of tools that are out there for people to use that are relatively inexpensive, at least to get started.
That's the key. That's the key. And again, that's kind of the misconception, right? Is that people think contacts, they think sales, they think marketing. The first word that comes up is Salesforce. You talk to people who are in the medium to small business space, and they're like, oh, Salesforce, right? You talk to people who have actually tried to implement Salesforce and who've had to pay for it. They go, oh, that thing's expensive, right? It's great. It's top of the line, right? It's like the Mercedes, but every time you get a new feature, that price just keeps bumping up. So a lot of times I sell against Salesforce. I've utilized Salesforce. I've implemented Salesforce. I like Salesforce, but it's the most expensive. So if you're thinking about utilizing a system, marketing automation, CRM, something to that effect, I always say, put Salesforce up there as one of your alternatives, and then let's talk about your objectives. And as we start talking about the objectives and really helping them move through a rational decision-making process, it turns out that they don't know what the alternatives are out there, you know, and that's where we're able to come in and kind of give them some insights, again, that I discovered on my own, just trying to build my own company when we were trying to market a book, right? I wasn't going to spend thousands of dollars to sell a $25 book. And people were telling me that, oh, that's going to cost you. And I was like, no, that is not. So, we found a lot of different systems that are tied into websites, right? I mean, you can get whole website systems where you can host an online course and then they'll give you the email marketing piece for free, right? They'll give you all of the bandwidth that you need to have these courses for, $100 to $150 a month. And it's real simple, drag and drop, easy stuff to do where you don't have to hire a coder or something like that. So solutions like that are out there, whether that's the CRM, whether it's the marketing automation, all of those pieces are out there. There's something that is the right budget for everyone. You mentioned SharpSpring. I think SharpSpring is a great fit for a lot of companies. The thing that most people like about SharpSpring is that it's kind of like the model of MailChimp, in email marketing, where it's X amount of money per the amount of contacts that you have, but the actual per seat for the user of the CRM is free. So you can utilize as many users on it as you want. So you can imagine if you're paying, $1,000 a month, but you got 20, 30, 40 people on it, it becomes very, very affordable. And again, then there's some other apps out there that we recommend that are $13 and $20 a month,
sure.
That can do some crazy automation and bring some great technology and information to the companies to help them grow.
So to wrap up with, let's talk about just a brief kind of content.
Yeah.
Right? Because when it comes down to it, you have all these great tools to use, but you actually have to send some type of content out to all those contacts that you have.
Yeah.
So
you got to break through the craposphere. That's what I call it. There's so much crap out there. You've got to have the right kind of content. You've got to understand your market. You've got to understand the message, and you've got to understand the medium. So many times people will say, even at the Dallas Business Journal, I ran an ad in the Dallas Business Journal one time, it didn't work. And I would say, okay, well, did you say $1,000 to the first 20 callers? And they said no. And I said, well, you would have got 20 callers at least from that ad, because you're promising something that people are interested in. And a lot of times what we think is interesting, if you haven't tested the market, if you haven't run some split tests, if you haven't done some focus groups and things like that, what you think is important to the market to present your brand promise may not resonate at all. And it doesn't matter how good your technology is,
right.
It doesn't matter how good anything is, if you don't have the right message, it's not compelling enough, to reach through the craposphere, you're going to waste a lot of money.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to kind of wrap things up for this episode. I really appreciate you
Sure thing.
coming on and being our guest.
Thanks for having me. First time around. Honored.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. My pleasure. So please stay tuned. We're going to wrap up our live stream right now. Again, this is Digital Marketing Today. We're coming to you from VentureX North Dallas. Just across from the Galleria at the corner of Knoll and Alpha. Please stop by and say hello. Take a tour of the location here. It's fabulous. We love being here. And we will see you next time on Digital Marketing Today. Thanks for joining us. All right. So now that we've finished filming and streaming, I know Evan has been gracious enough. I told him to please bring some of his books. Fabulous book, Sell Like a Champ. He has some copies over here. And I know that he has also graciously offered to give a couple of incentives for people who would like to experience some of the things that he offers. So tell us about what you're prepared to offer the group that decided to come out tonight and be a part of this experience.
Yeah, so, part of us trying to scale our business and grow it in different ways was, first off, writing the book and having that $20 thing. The second part was coming up with tools that could be utilized more on the e-learning, that type of deal that had to do with sales and marketing. So we've got two different platforms. One is for new businesses, so businesses that are 2 years and below, and that's newbizspringboard.com. And then we've got another platform called springboardyourbiz.com, and that's for companies that are 2 years or older. Really, it's kind of the same type thing. It's just one has language for a startup and one has language for an existing business. But for the Springboard Your Biz offer, we're getting ready to kick off a group coaching session for 2019. And so to get people kind of an idea of what the actual platform is like, because I don't think that you can really fully grasp an online platform unless you've kind of taken it for a test drive. So, I told Mark that we would offer it for, 99 cents for the first month. And then, if you were interested, we've got some pricing over there where it would bump up to different levels for the group coaching. But my wife said 99 cents is kind of lame. Who even puts that on a credit card? So I was like, yeah, I should probably just give them the first month for free. So if y'all want to go to springboardyourbiz.com and you put in your name and your email, I'll know that you're interested in taking that, and we'll go ahead and we'll get you in, and you'll start getting the emails. So what it is, a 52-week program. Each week you get a lesson, you get a video, in some cases you have a workbook that goes along with it. Very, very comprehensive. The second part to that is that we have our Springboard Your Biz model. And what we do with that is we kind of identify different springboards, is what we call them, things that you want to focus on that will help you, identify where you are as a business and what your maturity level is, and how do we bump you up to the next one. So they're very specific questions, so it'll be kind of like a round table, kind of like a mastermind. But one of the consulting companies I worked with was called Kepner Trago, and they're known for critical thinking. And when you're talking about critical thinking, what they're doing is they're asking you the right question at the right time to get you to the right place. And so we built this coaching program just to have, not only just to have the sales and marketing side of the 52-week platform, but also so that we can meet together as a group each month. And based upon where you're at, we'll take the springboard lesson and then we'll have you apply those specific questions to your maturity level. So, if you're at inception, which would be the early stage, you'd be surprised at how many of those questions are kind of similar for a more mature business, because a mature business needs to reinvent, right? They need to start thinking about innovative ideas so that they're not falling behind. One of my clients likes to say somebody's always trying to invent a better mousetrap, So even when you're at the mature level, it doesn't mean that you can stop innovating. And then, of course, we have survival, growth, and expansion, as the other levels in between. But again, what it does is it allows us to all kind of be at a place where we're asking the right questions for our business at the right time. And at the same time, you may even hear things that another person is asking because they're at another level that you haven't even considered, that may actually spark a new idea for your group. So that's what we're looking to put together this year with Springboard Your Business. And if you want more information about the platform itself and everything that comes in it, there's some papers over here that have all that information. And again, all you got to do is go to springboardyourbiz.com. I'll sign you up for the 30 days, and then we'll let you know when we're kicking off the next kind of group coaching call, if y'all are interested in that.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much for doing that.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And by the way, I told everybody, since I was the guinea pig, I get to come back, like episode 10 when there's like 100 people or something.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime. So.
All right.
And for those of you who are here tonight, as a thank you from SyncLab Media, one of the things that we are kicking off again this week, it's a product that we've offered in the past, and we kind of let it go a little bit to the wayside, but we're kicking it off again and putting out some new marketing around that as well. It's called a video business card. So basically, if you think about the type of information that you would include on a paper print business card that you hand out to someone, we take that same information and we present it in a video format. So it's about a 45-second video format with motion text and graphics. There's 3 different options. Someone can provide their own headshot and their own voiceover. Someone can provide their own video that they take themselves, and we give them 30 minutes of consulting to consult with them on best practices as far as what type of information